Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and we are here to build up our round 8 clash with the Brisbane Lions after a big win last week against the Eagles. Things are feeling pretty positive in the Blues community, I would say. But this week it's another chance. It's a big one to test and see just how we stack up against some of the better sides in the competition. Lockie, how are you feeling about this game? Are you confident that the Blues will take the Chockies?
It's a good intro, mate. I'm wondering how this is going to play out this episode. I don't know whether the lids are going to be on or off. I'm interested to see how you're feeling. I have had a habit this year of getting ahead of myself, so I'm not going to let that happen this week, even though I'm quietly confident.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely confident myself. Obviously, a win does that, and in the manner that we did it. But I think the rhetoric around this week and what I'm definitely wanting is just to see what we are, because we've had probably the start of this season a lot of issues. Even in the games we've won, we haven't been content. We haven't been satisfied with exactly what we've seen in the performance of it and the game style. And then you have 2 bad losses. Get that absolute everything out of the way. Kickstarter of the season, playing West Coast away, knowing just how bad they are. Hopefully the boys are a bit more confident. We saw everything we wanted to see last week. Now, with that confidence building into this game, they've got a couple of injuries. It's looking exciting. So let's get straight into it. We spoke just briefly there about the things that we wanted to see, because last week, probably the first time since starting this new segment, we got to tick off every single one of them. Can we do it again this week? It's going to be exciting. Lockie, what are the key parts to this that you want to see from this game?
Well, it makes me want to set the bar low just so we can have that satisfaction on a Monday of ticking them off. It makes us feel good. But I won't do that. I'll try and meet somewhere in the middle. I think for me, when I think about Brisbane and watched a fair bit of them this year, and I'm thinking about where it could show up that they get a hold of us, I look at that forward line. For me, the thing I want to see is, can will our defense continue to hold up like they have done so well this season? It's easy to see the names. Everyone knows the names in this forward line. They've kicked 73 goals in the past 4 weeks.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like, if we're going to win this game, we're either going to have to outkick them, which may not be our bread and butter, or we're going to have that defense hold up and keep them to a low score, which I do believe we can do, but it's going to be a big thing that we're going to need to see.
No, it's interesting you bring that up. It's definitely a big part of my opposition analysis is looking at their potent forward line and just the amount of players that can do damage. So I think that's a really good one. But hopefully we can tick this off into the review of this game. One that I want to see, and I guess it was on last week, but I kind of want to keep it on again because, let's be honest, it was West Coast. I want to see us do it against a good opposition, and that is I want us to take the game on through the corridor again. It's talking about that ball movement, but I'm going to add a bit to it because I can't just keep bringing the same one every single week. And that is that when challenged, when punished for a turnover in that big 45 kick through the corridor, and we get punished for that turnover, I want us to just continue to attack it, to not go into our shells, which is probably what we've seen and what we've been very critical on in that first half of the year, that when it's not working our way, we just sort of stop, and it's those long bombs down the wing. We go slow, controlled. I want to see us continue to take the game on no matter the circumstances. So that's probably what I'm really wanting to see from this one.
Yeah, it's a great one. That really leads into the second note that I made, which the way I've phrased it is, let's not succumb to the pressure from the Lions. Yeah. Because I think something that helped that game plan work last week was obviously a bit of a a lesser pressure game against the Eagles. So it's the worry is, as I cast my eye to this game, is that with that pressure being at a high level, we do go back into our shells. We do go back to, let's just get it forward at all costs. Like, if we can just get into Charlie, we don't need to put it to his advantage. Like, just get it in there. I just don't see that being the style that's going to work. So we're going to have to handle that pressure. And yeah, exactly like you said, just do what we did last week. We don't have to win by 100 plus, but if we just play in that mold, then we can get it done.
And it'll be very interesting. Something that I can't remember what Carlton content creators mentioned this, but they were talking about that being able to spread and create this space and take the game on, it's obviously a little bit easier when you play at such a bigger ground. And I'm looking back at maybe some of the games that we've played, and probably the 2 times we've done it best this season, I would say, was against Geelong at the MCG, big ground, and then at Optus. And some of the games we've struggled have been those maybe Marvel Stadium or whatever the Giant Stadium's called at this stage. I think it is just Giant Stadium. But those ones have been small, a bit more cramped, and what that'll do on the Marvel turf, knowing it's just not as expansive of a turf. And I know that shouldn't mean anything, and really, like, wherever you play, you should play good football. But if we're at this point still where we're not perfect, everything isn't going, we're not the finished article, basically. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see how that goes. And probably my other one, I do have one past this, but mainly footy, is I want some goals from our small forwards. I thought they were handy last week in different things they were bringing around the ground, but knowing that, spoiler, Motlop is in the team this week, before we talk about our changes, I want some goals from these boys. And obviously, if Charlie and Harry end up kicking 20 each, then them kicking one doesn't necessarily matter, but it's something they probably haven't done as much this week. So I kind of want a few of them to start to hit the scoreboard, because knowing Brisbane love to spread their goals around, and we did so well at that last week. Even midfielders were getting involved. I want to start getting these guys on that scoreboard.
Yeah, that's a great one. Jesse is definitely due. He should be fresh, so no reason why he can't put some on the board. The last one that I had, I guess, is just thinking about how you and I are going to be feeling in 4 days. And I hope that from this game we see, I guess we've got faith in the team for this little stretch here leading up to the bye. Because we sit here and we look back at our fixture so far and then what we've got to come, and we have had a chance to play a bunch of the lower down teams.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be the case leading up to the bye now. So I hope that we can see in this game something that gives us faith for this little stretch. And West Coast isn't the outlier, but, more of that. Adelaide game is the outlier.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. And my last is a little less team focused. Maybe this is very personnel focused. And what I want to see from this game, and this is probably weirdly almost my number one, but I want to see a goal from Sam Doherty in game 150, because really the roof would get blown off that place when that happens. I'll tell you what. So yeah, lock that one in, surely.
That's paying like $1.01, I would say. Surely that's going to happen. And it's going to be from 60.
Yeah, it has to be a 75-meter bomb from like a 50-meter penalty. All of a sudden, he's kicking it from the middle of the ground, and it just sails through, because that's what that man does. But yes, they're the things that we want to see. Hopefully, we can, when we reflect on this in our game review, we can tick these off and say, yep, Carlton's got the dub, and look at all these beautiful things we've done. But let's go to one of our favorite parts. It is getting into the listener questions. Now, we're setting this one out onto Twitter. So if you're not following us on the social medias, get onto it at Navy Blue Corner. On Twitter is where we do a lot of that interactive stuff. But if you don't have Twitter, jump on Instagram, jump on Facebook, jump on TikTok. We're on all of those, again, at Navy Blue Corner. And if you're liking what you're listening to so far, on your streaming services, chuck us a follow so you don't miss out. And if you're on YouTube right now seeing Lockie's beautiful face in front of you, make sure you like the video if you're enjoying it, because that just lets us know that you are enjoying the stuff, because sometimes the views can be skewed and things like that. And make sure you subscribe. And if you want to follow along, throw a question at us that isn't covered in this, drop them in those comments, go over to social media, get in the DMs, and you can get it answered. But Lockie, what are the ones that you've chosen for me this week?
Oh, absolutely getting the DMs. Whenever I log into our Insta and go to our DMs, I see that you've just been chatting to everybody. Everybody's hitting you up and you're taking all the replies. So we love to see it.
It's great procrastination at work, I tell you what. Like, sorry, work. Gotta get onto the listeners,
The people after a chat. So we've got a good little bunch here. We've got about 5 that we'll get through. So we'll start with this one from at Mickey C's. Mickey C's says it's the CC show this week. C and C. Who wins, Curnow or Cameron, and which blue gets the ladder? So we talked a bit about the forward line. Maybe you'll talk a bit about it in our analysis, but have you got a bit of a sense on who you think's going to go to Cameron, and who's going to be the big winner of this game out of Curnow and him?
Well, firstly, I thought I was getting a bit excited there. I thought you were telling me that there was some sort of sale on Canadian clubs at Marvel this week, and I was about to get very interested in that one.
Don't mind one of them.
I am very interested to see this battle this week. And Yeah, I mean, we've definitely got to try and stop their forward, but I mean, Charlie is just in the absolute best
No one
form.
can
So I
stop
reckon
him.
he will definitely take that mantelpiece. And was the other part of that how many goals he's going to kick this week?
The last one is who's going to take Charlie Cameron.
Oh, he's going to take him. Oh, well,
Yeah.
ooh.
Plenty of
Gee,
options.
this is a good debate, and I reckon I need to hear from you as well from this one.
This is
Because
actually the segment where I ask you questions. Not sure if you've
you're
got
like,
that. We've been doing
I'm
this
out
for
of
a
this.
while. I don't want my name to this one.
I think that, and we were chatting about this on the selection table over at Pommy and Oz on YouTube. Get all the plugs out this week.
Absolutely.
Discussing it, trying to figure out what the best thing was. And what I like about our backline at the moment is we've got a number of guys that can do a number of different jobs.
Definitely.
And we can switch and change this up throughout the game. And I think at the most part, probably I like the idea of Assad to start with, almost try to make him a little bit accountable like he did a Stengel. And I don't mind that. I think that can work. Make him have to defend rather than going for the goals. But the way Nick Newman has been playing at the moment,
it's hard to go past him.
Almost just has to be him as well. But the only thing that slightly concerns me is maybe is he a bit too nimble for a Nick Newman? Like, no offense, obviously he's not the fastest guy going around. Not that that's stopped his defensive prowess this season. But that's the thing. Between those two, I think you can kind of handle it. If he goes off the chain, move one of those guys onto there. And, I mean, not that they're necessarily the shortest guys going around and the fastest. But, Brody Kemper and Mitch McGovern can play a bit smaller and lock down at stages. So I like that we have some alternatives. But I think start with Sard. Worst case, you got Nick Newman there.
I like it. Yeah, no, I'm very aligned with that. And you don't need to worry about defending Nick Newman. That ship has sailed when he wasn't their best 22.
He's my man now. He's my man.
I'm not going to live that down until we get to next year's predictions.
Fair shout.
All right, this is a good one. You know who it is. Timmy Dub coming through. So he says, this takes me back. In our famous 2019 win over Brisbane, Ed Curnow played an instrumental role in applying a hard tag on Neil. Do we go that way again, or do we let Hewitt play an accountable but not a hard tag role? And before we get to that, let's do some trivia.
Oh, he has got it this week. He has.
No sting yet. We're yet to have a sting, but we've got a new name for this segment. So this is Triv-Ian. Triv-Ian. And you'll see next week you'll see, it'll all come together. But here we're going to go back to that 2019 game. And I feel like I need to give you a little bit more of a softball this week. It was a bit hard last week.
Oh no.
So here's what I want to know. How many players that played in that game for Carlton are playing tomorrow?
Ooh.
And which team has more players that played in that game playing tomorrow?
Am I allowed to get the current lineup out
Talk
of this team this week and try and guess it? Or are you just going off the cuff a random number? I'm looking it up.
Look, you can do this how you want, mate. This is about you proving to everyone why they should be listening to you. You can do this how you want. I'm just giving you a platform to show how much you know this club.
Well, we'll see, because there's going to be a few there that could be injured. Were they out that year? Was that when Doc had the knee? Oh no, what's going on?
I don't want to hear this excuse. This was an instrument. Where were you on this day? Were you at this match?
I was working.
Oh, okay.
I was working, so I didn't get to see it live. But I tell you what, you should have seen me out the back of my phone every 5 minutes, being like, I can't believe what's happening, because I thought the game was done at quarter time, and I almost stopped checking my phone, being like, oh, thank God I'm not there this week. Could not believe it. I went home and spent the next week rewatching that game because it was unbelievable. But trying to guess the players.
So you should know then, because as Timmy said, this is a very famous game in our history. So you should give us something here.
How many were there? Oh God, I'm not seeing a lot so far. I am not seeing a lot that are here. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6.
Good attempt. There was actually 9.
9 of us out there
playing. So
wow. Name them for me, Lockie.
Oh, let's go back. So back there. Wait, were you looking at the current team? Or you weren't looking at that game? Yeah. So back in that game, we had Cripper, Walsh, Ed Curnow, Weeders, Newman, Charlie, Sauce, Gov, and Harry. That's your 9.
Oh wow. Oh wow. A lot more than I anticipated there. And you're saying now who has the most
Do you think Brisbane had
currently?
more or less with their current team?
Ooh, more than 9. I'll go Brisbane have less currently.
Well played. They've got 8
Got the
from
one.
that team playing tomorrow.
I'll take the half point.
So
I'll take the half point.
take of that what you will. But I'll say Trevian, you pass this week. A subtle pass.
It's been a subtle pass 2 weeks in a row, and I'll take it any day of the week.
So Timmy Dub, Lockie Neal, tag accountable.
I don't love the tagging necessarily. Yeah. And maybe this is just my point of view. Let us know in the comments below what you reckon. Should we be tagging? Do you like it? Do you don't? My reasoning is I feel as if we should be past the tagging kind of role. Yeah. Not many teams do it in this day and age. And as soon as you start to take someone out of, I guess, your midfield and bring in a role player just to negate the influence of someone else, I think you start to say that, okay, we don't trust our midfield, or we don't trust the way that we want to go about it. We have to nullify you rather than back your system in. And that's kind of something that I want us to change. So for me, I don't love the tagging because of that. I think you set up to play a way to win because you believe that you're better than the opposition. Now, if someone starts to get a handle on you quite a lot, then you can start to maybe put some attention in. Maybe you can throw Ed in for a little bit and see if that changes anything. But look, they've got a really big, strong midfield. I'd rather the second part of that make them more accountable by saying, hey, like, you've got to stop our boys too. And if we get off the chain, then you guys have to worry about it. So, yeah, it's a no tag for me. But I'd love to hear everyone else's thoughts because it's always a really interesting discussion.
Yeah, it is an interesting discussion. And you make a good point that I could definitely see us not starting with that. And yet at some stages in the game, we see Ed maybe go in there and do something like that. A bit of a wait and see. I'm sure Vossi's got that in his bag. From at SC198395. Can the Twin Towers in Kerno and Mackay kick over 10 goals between them again this week? Over or under 10 goals between the two of them this week, Ian?
Well, that only means Harry has to kick 1 to get the 10. So I reckon lock that in.
He might not even have to contribute.
If the way Charlie's going at this rate. No, I think that it's going to be a big one from these two. We know that Marvel is Harry's house. We know that for a fact. And
it is. That's true.
He's pretty much like the discussion around Harry's probably been a little unfair at the moment because apart from really kicking the goals, which is obviously a big part of his role, everything else has been there. His work up the ground's been great. He's been able to set up everything. Last week, he created the space to draw the key defenders away from Charlie so he could isolate him. And I enjoyed that quite a lot. He's sort of sacrificing his game and he's still getting the opportunities in front of goal, just not taking them. And I think if he wasn't creating those opportunities and getting them himself, I'd be quite worried about him. But it's just the finishing, which I think can click at any stage. So I'm going to make the bold prediction that Harry kicks 4, Charlie kicks 7.
Oh,
let's go big. Man. Let's go big.
That sounds like a dub. That sounds like a Timmy dub, if I'm honest. We're not losing if that happens. You can mark my words.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Super bad. You heard of him?
Oh, super bad. One of the faves, one of the podcast favorites. We need to get a nickname for just about everyone on here, whether they like it or not. Like, part of me almost wants to slightly drive these listeners away by giving them nicknames that they don't want. But then maybe there's a part of it psychological that because they're getting the nickname, they kind of like it, but they don't. I don't know. I do like the fact that we're giving the listeners some nicknames because there's been so many contributors that are there every single week listening to us. We got to reward you with maybe a shit nickname because that's the best we can kind of do.
But that's the thing. We're very transparent about this. And let's be honest, the bar is low. What do you need? Multiple quality tweets in succession. That is a very low bar for a Navy Blue Corner nickname.
It really is.
And Superbad delivers every week, week in, week out. And we love you for it, Mickey. And he says, how important is Walsh playing that half-forward role? I feel like if we can keep playing him there, it really unlocks the connection from our mids to Harry and Charlie. And one more thing on Superbad is that he always has perfect grammar and makes my life really easy. So shout out to Mick. I know Timmy Dub, he gave me a bit of stick on Twitter about me calling him out last week. And look, he did well this week. I can tell Grammarly was all over that. Anyway, rant over. Walshy?
Firstly, super bad. Make sure you test this man and his comprehension skills, because I don't think they're the greatest. I don't look at these questions and I don't believe that I can't even speak, so I can't say anything. But the grammar of these tweets, he's telling me that they're no good. I don't trust him. So make sure you test him with a bit of this. Get some longer words.
Keep me on my feet.
Saurus out and get some interesting words. But Walshy, let's talk about Walshy, because he is just unbelievable. The fact that he's doing what he has done so far, off like no preseason and that massive injury.
Yeah,
he's not human. Firstly, but I think he's so important in that high half forward role. We spoke about it quite a bit, kind of after that, I guess, Adelaide game when things weren't working well, and how do you get more pace around the ball when you start to lose that midfield battle? And it was about those high half forwards, about the Walshies, about those Cheras, the nice ball movers. And I think those guys getting around the fringes and being able to push up. I saw, a Durden do it a few times and not get that connection. But Walsh's work rate to make the halfbacks from the opposition accountable and win his own ball. And I just think that is such a instrumental role to how we go forward. It's going to be really interesting to see the names that start to roll through there as we get healthier. Yes. And just how hard that is to stop. And your prediction of the Walshy starting on the half forward of our best 22, maybe the All-Australian team is starting to look like a nailed on win, Lockie.
There it is. Yeah, look, you've nailed all that, mate. I guess we'll talk about this a bit with the teams, but we're starting to get some health back.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to that stage, as long as we touch wood, we might start getting some real big selection calls and difficulty getting into spots, which is good.
Well, that excites me.
We've got one final listener question, but as always, there's always a listener question that leads well into the team changes. So let's go back to Ian's. When this needs a sting. Ian's opposition analysis. This is where Ian goes deep. Maybe not everybody knows what the Lions are all about. How are they going? What are we going to watch out for? How would they beat us? Over to you.
Also, you're not going to just answer that man's question to segue in. You're just going to leave it there.
Davo 71. We're going to hold him until after the Oppo analysis.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, this does need a sting. This does need a name. And look, I'll be well and truly honest, and I'll be very transparent, because that's what we're about at the Navy Blue Corner. Very transparent here.
We are.
I haven't watched a lot. I haven't watched a lot of the Brisbane Lions, and I haven't deep dived probably as much as I have some other opposition. But I tell you what, I've seen enough Brisbane in previous years to know enough. And what I am most probably worried about with them at the moment is their forward line, because the research I have done is that they are number one for points from forward 50 stoppages currently this season with 109. The next best is the Bulldogs with 75 points. So they are well and truly the best in the competition at points from forward 50 stoppages. And that's a bit of a concern, knowing how potent that is. And I'll just rattle off some guys in there and their goals so far, because I don't think we've really come up against an opposition that's had multiple weapons. Most normally have sort of one or two keys, and if you kind of think you can shut those guys down, you can win it. Probably the only one was maybe a St Kilda, but they didn't have the tall timber that a Brisbane does. Then at the moment, Charlie Cameron leads their goals with 22, Danaher 16, Hipwood 12, Rayner 9, Gunston 8, Zach Bailey 7, and Lincoln McCarthy 6. And that's just a spread of a lot of different styles of players in there. Knowing that they have that many guys that can do it, a few midfielders that can roll in as well on their day and do it, means that, our defense, as you were saying at the top of this show, they need to be onto it, and probably flowing onto this even more. Our mids really need to stop the supply, because the defense we can trust the defense to do their jobs, basically. It's just about how easy it's going into our defense that I think is going to cost us. And what maybe is the concern is that Brisbane at the moment, they rank last in the competition for total disposals this season. We're second.
Wow.
So considering how well they're doing right now, you were saying that how many goals that they're kicking. I think they're like the third highest for just goals this season. All the games they're winning, and they don't touch the ball, which means they don't need a lot of it to hurt you. They're incredibly efficient
Wow.
with it. They lock it into that forward line and get those scores off little disposals. So we've just got to dominate this game and try to really limit that supply. And going into that, segue into that midfield, we know that they've got a lot there. They've got Neil, got Dunkley, McCluggage, Ashcroft. And then that second kind of tier at the moment. With a Zorko out, I think that's a big thing for us, knowing that he can kind of play around the field. He's a big body, and I'm not sure they've got a guy that can 100% replace what he does. You know, Answorth comes in. They've got Berry, who's a bit more of a winger, can go through there. And then guys like Bailey and Rayner. They've got a lot that can rotate through that midfield. A lot of different types.
Good
so this
players.
is kind of that really good test to see what probably that top 4 opposition is like at the moment in form, and how we kind of stack up against them. And where I think we can probably exploit this is obviously that midfield starts to win it, but it's their defense that I don't necessarily on paper think is amazing. And I don't want to, jinx myself or anything, but at the moment, I don't really rate their key forwards, really. If you look at it, it's Lester, Payne, and Harris Andrews. Harris Andrews was really good a few years ago. I think he's definitely regressed over the last few years. Still a good footballer, but none of those kind of instill a lot of fear in you when you know that the tall timber that we have into that forward line. The thing we've got to stop is their run, like we always say. And they do have a few that are really good at it. They got Coleman. They've got McKenna. Yeah. I know Wilmot and Berry do play a bit more of that wing role, but wingers, they push down and they do get quite a lot of rebound 50. So we do need to stop that. They're well organised. Starcevic is an absolute rock down there. But what is big again, spoken about Zorko not being there, Daniel Rich, which is, I'm so happy because he kills us every single year. And so that's nice to know that these guys, they don't travel the greatest. They've got a few big outs. We're in form after one game. I think this is the best time to come up against the Lions and test ourselves against, I guess, what could be a top 4 side while we're riding high with some confidence as well. I think the key is to kind of stop their run, limit the forward entries, get that midfield dominance, and with their lack of tall defenders, in my opinion, I just think we need to take the game on and get it in quick, and I think we'll exploit their defense. I think that it's simple. It's a simple way to beat them. It's nothing. I'm not coming here with the greatest analysis of all time, but sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's just the simple things, because you saw the space that we were able to create, I think, last week with that midfield and the spread, and what happens when you do get it in fast, you move the ball corridor on. And I think you can exploit it this week.
100%. You've nailed it there, mate. And I think you sprinkled it in there. I think it is. Here's some deep analysis for you, supported by no numbers. The fact that we're not getting them at the Gabba this year is a big deal. Like the record shows that is an extremely hard task. So just the fact that we get them at Marvel, Doc's 150th. It feels like a real different ball game to what it was when we had to go up there last year under so much pressure. I don't think it can actually be understated how much of an impact that is. Like, we're going in as favourites to this game, and there's no way we would be if it was up in Brisbane.
And even this season, we've been ranked as one of the harder teams to score against. I think really apart from that, Adelaide game at this stage, teams haven't really put big scores against us, even in games we've drawn or lost. So knowing that even if our midfield hasn't been on top to date, we've still, with how well our defense has been, they've stopped those scores coming through. So I think that matchup-wise, it's going to be such an intriguing battle, and I just can't wait to see how it actually plays out for me. It is really... If we didn't have the performance last week, this would have been a lot more negative going into it. But now it's insane what a week does, and now all of a sudden we're licking our hands and lips to this one. I'm very, very keen. But there is a big thing that we need to talk about before we get into the team. Oh, actually, sorry. We've got that question for you. I can't cut you off because I was about to abuse you for cutting off the question. What did this man have for us?
Let's go back to Davo. Davo71. What does he have to say? He just saw the teams.
Oh,
Fisher's out. And Motlop's in, if you weren't aware. Pretty sure you're aware of that.
I saw.
He says, our selection integrity just keeps going. Surely Honey goes out before Fish. I know he has been below par, but he had 21 last week. Bringing Motlop straight in raises eyebrows as well. Much hyped, but not there yet. I think that's the perfect segue to talk about these changes.
I think it is. It's some interesting changes this week. They have made a bit of a statement this week. Obviously, Motlop
Yeah.
is in. Fisher is out. Kennedy also taken back out of the team. Whether he could be the sub, who knows? I know Vossi's annoyed with that one. But yeah, the Fisher selection's a very interesting one because I think if it happened a week before, I would have been like, yep, beautiful. They're not rewarding, lack of form and things like that. They're making a statement. They're getting that selection integrity into there, which is the buzzword this season. But I don't know. Weirdly, because I thought he played better last week, I feel like it's a little bit harsh, but I'm not by any stretch saying that Fisher's been playing amazingly and therefore deserves to keep his spot. Probably the only thing I'll bring up from that is, again, there's probably others that I would have said have maybe played worse, like a Honey keeps his spot, and Ed keeps his spot. These kind of guys, I think, are contributing a little bit less than Fisher. So it kind of seems weird for me that you make a statement of, like a Kennedy or a Fisher out, but there's still other guys kicking about that, I guess, collectively we don't see as in the best form. What do you kind of make of the changes and that selection integrity when there's still pieces in that team that we don't?
Yeah, I think you make some really good points. I saw some quite mature discussion on Twitter today, which kind of went back to what we spoke about last week, where people saying, they must be seeing something in Ed Kerno that we're not seeing, for example. And that's maybe true.
Yeah.
Like we don't know what is going on behind the scenes, and maybe guys like him and Honey are probably the two that stick out as ones that would make way first, for me at least, just on game performance. But maybe there is things that we're seeing that we're not seeing that are going on. For me, it would have been pretty simple. I do like bringing Motlop back in, but it probably would have been for Honey rather than Fisher, even though I haven't. I don't know. Is it fair to say you've been a little higher on Fisher than me this season? But still both not super excited. So that'd be the change. And then I'd still be bringing Kennedy in and probably putting Kerno to the sub.
Yeah.
I still don't mind him being around it, but the thought of him playing just one quarter compared to Kennedy is a bit better for mine.
It's such a weird thing. And the Fisher out, I can cop. Like, I'm not at all saying that Fisher's been playing great football.
Yeah. Of course.
It's the weird balance of, well, okay, I would have assumed that the guy coming in to replace him is playing a similar role to Fisher, because Fisher has not been near that kind of forward line. Really, in most games, he's been very high up that ground, almost playing as that extra midfielder. Some of the time he's winning the ball in the defensive half. He's definitely been playing really, really high half forward. And if not, sometimes I've seen him line up at the wing at center bounces. So he's definitely been pushing up, which makes me maybe pivot to a question I want to ask you. Do you think that because of that and them not replacing it with necessarily a like for like, whether there's someone else in this team, maybe it's a Motlop, maybe it's a Durden that you could see pushing up a little bit higher and maybe substituting into that Fisher role? Where are the magnets aligning for you on the coach's board?
I mean, you make a great point. Who would you even pick out of those two? Like, I have faith in both of them that they could do a good job in that role. That's very possible. I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I probably Durden out of those two, even though I have faith that Motlop could get there one day. But I think you make a good point. I think that's actually more likely than us just seeing, Motlop and like us go back to that structure that we had before. Because it is a different role.
I mean, they do clearly like the three small forwards, so that's probably an element of it. It's always weird when someone comes out and they're not exactly replaced, but it will be interesting to see. I mean, at this stage, just keep backing the coaches and seeing what happens, and then after the fact, we can definitely judge away. But I do like that to an extent. There are some standards. Fish hasn't been amazing. Okay, sorry, mate. Go into the twos or maybe be the sub and get the form back. And Jaconing was brought down the other week as well, who hadn't been amazing. So I kind of do like that. There's a little bit of selection integrity. It does feel like to a degree it is back.
Yeah,
subs.
It could also it could also be one of those things. I feel like we spoke about this more last year, where it's like maybe they're going, all right, Honey, we don't know what the future holds for him. Let's give him like a solid 6 weeks to prove yourself, and then we make the decision, like maybe they did with Paddy Dow some time ago, and they're going to give him his chance now. And if he doesn't deliver, then it's fine. And maybe they look at Fisher and they go, "Yeah, look, you're more likely to be in our long term, so let's just give you a week
Yeah. And even on that, like knowing Matty always is looking like he's coming back in a week or so,
Yep.
even potentially this week, it looked like there was something that said he could be even a test for this week, maybe in the VFL.
Yeah.
Maybe they do just give him a week and go, okay, this spot is Matty Owies. He's probably going to come back and take this because he's been our most informed small forward. Here you go, have another chance. And going from that West Coast game, the thing that sticks out for me in the Honey performance was really that running into goal, could have gone for the shot.
Yeah.
Chose to kick it into the goal square and set up Silvani, I think it was in the end. And maybe those little things do deserve to be rewarded and say, mate, you've done the team thing there. Because surely that's something that gets highlighted in the footage after it, where they sit everyone down and go, like, that is selfless. Like, that is what we want to be seeing from everyone, where he thought about it and went, hang on, do I have a better option? And there was, and that selflessness is something that we want to instill in this team. And so fair enough, if they are looking at those little elements and going, we want to reward that, rather than he goes straight out of this team and then he goes, oh, well, I was doing all these right things. If I'd kicked that extra goal, would they have gone, oh, he can't drop him because he's got a couple of goals onto his name? You never know. You never know. So it's an interesting selection. What would you have done with the team if you were in charge? Were there any other changes that you would have made instead?
Yeah. No, I'm not sure if you were paying attention to me go off before, but for me, it would have just been Motlop in, Honey out, and then swapping Kennedy and Curnow as the subs, I think. Because it's like, and obviously then Fisher remains in for me. You know, I like my continuity.
I did hear that, but I wanted to get it on the record in case there was anything else that was going through it. And I was exactly the same with my changes this week. So moving on to the sub that is up for grabs at time of recording. Currently, it is between Kennedy, Fisher, Cowan, and Fogarty. Who would you like it to be out of those four?
Well, I could be a hypocrite and say I'd do Kennedy again, even though we didn't like when O'Brien had it a whole bunch of weeks in a row. Bugger. Let's go with Fisher.
Okay, fair enough. No,
would you go Kennedy?
I like the idea more of a Fisher being the sub, and part of me wishes I was just in charge, so Kennedy was in, Curnow's out, and then Fisher's just the sub in that essence, because that's the kind of impact player I'm seeing as the perfect kind of sub. And mate, I can't wait until we start to get, Matty Cottrell and a few of these other boys fit, because I don't think we've made the most out of having the substitute yet. It's kind of just been, well, everyone's injured. Who is the next person available that can maybe come into this team? Whereas we haven't maybe been able to use it as tactically as other teams that bring on some pace or bring on a different element. And so I'd like the idea of Fisher, but I don't know, maybe against a team that has such a good midfield, having a Matt Kennedy there ready to go whenever you need him could be what we need to break the game open, knowing just how much impact he had late in the game last week. It could be interesting to add him to our midfield mix, just knowing the depth that Brisbane do have in there.
God, it feels good to have options again.
It does.
Options that we're genuinely happy with, each of them. And it's not like picking the best of a bad sitch. It's good.
Oh, 100%. But as we've said at the start of this episode, there's a few big things happening this week. And obviously the first one, and probably a very, very important one, it is the Carlton Respects game this week. And it is the 8th. It is the 8th one. Unfortunately, we haven't won any of these yet. We're 0-7. But look, this is a great cause. For anyone that isn't aware of the Carlton Respects, we don the orange socks. We get a bit of the orange on the cuffs and the collar of the Guernsey to bring awareness and create a bit of a conversation and educate the community as a whole around gender equality and the prevention of violence against women, which is a very important cause. And it's a nice initiative that Carlton do to kind of raise awareness to it and bring these conversations to the forefront. In sport, I know some people don't like the politics and things mixing, but, for something like this, I think everyone can appreciate it. But it is about time, Lockie, that we win one of these games. It's almost been a bit of a curse. And it doesn't help when you have the politics mixing and people go, oh, well, we don't win this, so who cares? But this is the one. Get it going. And then who knows? Do we go an orange jumper? Do we go even bigger? Do we get Captain Carlton in the orange running out there for his dance routine at quarter time? What are we doing? Orange hovercraft? What are we looking for?
Get Navy Nina in it.
No, it's a very important cause, the Carlton Respects game, and I think it's about time we win it. And the other big thing that we have this week is, of course, Sam Doherty's 150th game. And look, I think he deserves his own little segment in this, because this man has had the 2 ACLs, 2 bouts of cancer. Like, he's been through it all. There were times where we were going, is he going to play again? Don't even worry about football. Like, it's just the journey that this guy has been on is just, it's unfair. But what he's been able to do and the person that he is, it's a testament to him and the people he has around him. It's just, I mean, I can't even think of the words to describe him, to be honest. And it's amazing how much you see the boys get around him and what he means to them. And he's been such a big leader of this football club. And I think I've spent a bit of time on this, Lockie, because it's his 150th, and you've just got to do it for him. You have to do it for Sam Doherty. Yes, for those that are the unfortunately the audio listeners, it's definitely more of a visual thing. Jump over to YouTube if you need it. I'll definitely chuck it on all our socials, so you'll need to see that one. But a bit of time and effort has gone into it. Any Simpsons fans will be loving that one. But yeah, it's a big one for Doherty, a big one for the Carlton football team. Are we doing it for Doc this week?
Well played, mate. Look, you go viral with one Simpsons TikTok, and then it's all Simpsons content. It's what 100%. You were made to do. We're gonna do it for Doc.
Yeah,
we're gonna do it for him.
Like, if these boys needed any more motivation, it's like you can't lose after that, surely. And yeah, as we said, we need to see this man kick a goal. So I just want to see more tears in the stands for this man. There is nothing better than that. But how are we winning this game? Because obviously, we've got to do it for Doc. So how are we doing it, Lockie? And that leads us to one of our favorite segments. We don't have the sting, so you're going to have to do it for me, Lockie. What is it?
We're talking about the bit of ASMR there for the podcast listeners. It's the keys to winning this game, people. I don't
the production value is high. The production value is high.
I hope people can appreciate that we're giving it a crack. As we said, email us if you want to produce this show, because we're too busy.
Desperate. We're desperate.
I don't even know what this segment is. Is this just you again? Is this just you telling me your keys? Because I don't know. We're going to win.
Look, mate, this segment could be anything that you want it to be. This could be anything
we're
you want it to
be.
We're
still shaping this.
We are a bit of plasticine that needs to be molded into a fine piece of art. But yeah, I'm happy to take you through it. Lockie, and tell you, because I've done the analysis. Can't even say the word. And now I've got to tell you how it's going to get done. And if you have anything that you think is a key to us winning this game, let me know. And if you're listening to it, let me know the keys to winning this game in the comments below if you're on YouTube, or get on the social media at Navy Blue Corner and let us know. But for me, pretty simple again. We just got to take the game on like we did last week. I think if we do this, it'll create that more space, create that separation, allow for quicker and faster ball movement, which means it's so much easier for Harry and Charlie to get onto these things. And something that I didn't say as one of my things that I wanted to see from this game, but it's kind of a non-negotiable, to be honest. And we've probably only seen it last week. We haven't seen it very often, but it's that sustained 4-quarter effort and work rate. Yeah. I think that's hopefully something that these boys needed to see, that this is what happens when you do it. You don't just win by 30 points. You starve that opposition of the ball. You starve them from anything. And the opposition didn't want to even be there. They didn't want their consolation goal last week. And that's what it does. It really chokes them. And I think that that's hopefully something that this group needed to understand, to witness it, to know they were capable of doing it. And now up against a better opposition, they can kind of test that and see, and maybe go to the well when they need it of, okay, well, this is what happens when we do it. It's the motivation they need. And yeah, it's that last thing of just limiting that supply to their potent forward line. They don't need much of the ball to do it. And so we just got to stop that damage. Mids win the football. Do you have any other big things that you're going like, this is the thing that we need to do to win this game?
No, you've summarized it beautifully. I think if we get anything close to a 4-quarter performance, I think we've done it. Like, that's incredibly hard to do against these really skilled teams, where you just always feel like they're gonna come at some stage. Like you see it with Collingwood, and these teams do it where they always get their runs no matter what. So if we can get at least close to it being 4 quarters, oh my god, you can lock it in.
And we've been earlier, a few weeks ago, we were looking at sort of the season, breaking it up into sort of chunks of 4 games. And this is the end of that chunk of 4 games before we go into some really tough fixtures. Now, we said that a really good top 4 team,
love the reflections,
goes 3-1. A pass mark is 2-2.
Yikes.
Currently, Lockie, how's it gone so well? Yes. So this one needs to be a win to get that pass mark.
Yeah.
Knowing the fixtures we have coming up, and I know sometimes you don't like having to reflect when the season's such a broad different thing, and you don't like going into these big
you know
negative.
me well. You know me well.
I've got to ask the question. If we don't get the victory this week, knowing what we've got coming up, knowing where this group is at currently, what does that kind of mean for you in the grand scheme of this tough run of fixtures?
Well, if we lose this week, we probably won't be in the 8 still. And I think if we're not in the 8 at any stage, I think that we're not doing our job.
Yep.
So, but with that said, though, I'm not going to. This weekend will tell us a lot. Like, we probably didn't learn a whole lot last week. And like I kind of said, what I want to see is the faith that this game can give us. So if we can put in a strong performance this week, get somewhat close to that 4-quarter effort, do the things that you spoke about, and just not get across the line, I can live with it. Brisbane are a flag contender. Like, that's just how it is. But you'd hope that we were going to have more than 4 wins by round 8. There's no denying that.
No, I'm getting into the more of the Lockie thinking recently in trying to expand it over the season and say, just because you don't get what you want right now doesn't mean it's not going to happen later. And, there's that possibility of we lose this game, go on to win the next 4. You never know what does transpire. And I'm kind of going down your same sentiment. And I know some supporters won't love this because they just love the wins and losses. And, this is the, I can't think of the word, sort of the standard that has to be met. And this is what it is. It's win. And if you think less than that, then it's not going to help these boys. And while I do agree with you, I think that, win is what is required here and a loss isn't good enough. But knowing it's still early in this season, if we play similar to how we played last week, continue to take the game on, even when we get hurt from it and gets turned over, and we continually attack and we go about it the right way, the system is in place. And we happen to lose this game in a close one or whatever happens, as long as it's not a blowout, any of that, and we're playing the right way, I think as long as I'm seeing enough things, knowing we're building into this season, you can cop it. You won't be happy with it at all. It's not accepted, but it's enough to keep building on and going, okay, well, we're still thereabouts. But it's going to be interesting to see what does transpire from this, because if they then don't play that brand of footy and lose, it's not going to be good. But then you could not play that brand of footy and win. So it's so hard to read into these things. But I do like the reflection of getting this 4-week block and then being able to see what happens at the end. So we'll be able to reflect on that. And then our next build-up show, we'll be going through the next 4 fixtures and getting our pass mark for that. And feel free to drop that one in the comments when we get to it next week. But Lockie, do you have anything else to say on our game against Brisbane before we get into a segment that I am not looking forward to personally?
You've got some.
I think you are, though. I think you are. Looking forward.
I want to hear an apology. That's what I want to hear. You showed no faith.
No, I didn't.
And you watched that game, didn't you? And you saw what happened. I did.
I'm very disappointed. This is the footy tips for anyone that is very confused. First-time listeners.
If you're a first-time listener, you
you do not know what was going on. But look, I put my foot in it last week. How we're trying to do the footy tips this week, because we're in the Carlton cheer squad footy tipping. Yes. We're trying to win it because the top 3 in this league win a signed team jumper, and we want that.
And we want that. We want shared custody.
Oh yes,
2 weeks on, 2 weeks off.
Exactly. We'll get the court to sort this one out for us. But Unfortunately, with this, the person has to. We've tried to. Sorry, I don't even know what I'm saying, but we're trying to sort out the format of how we're doing these footy tips. And currently, we've been struggling. So we've thought,
Yeah, it didn't
you've got to
work when we were
beat.
trying to collaborate.
Yeah, but you've got to. Yeah, because weren't doing well at the moment. We were
weren't.
out of that top 100. So we're thinking, how can we fix this?
New
Got
strategy.
to take it in turns. Person has to beat the other person's score from the week before. So the score to beat was 7 out of 9. But I put my foot in it and said, because Lockie, first game, said that Port was beating the Sainers, and I called him an idiot. I called him all the names under the sun and said, you could get 1 out of 9 next week, but if
Was it
Port
Marvel? They can't
beat
win.
the Sainers, I would let Lockie take over the tips. And I'm kind of annoyed because you got 7 out of 9, so it would have been me this week. I'm very disappointed. So I apologize, Lockie. And now you have the chance to stay in, because all you have to do, you get 7 out of 9 this week and you stay on.
Yep.
That's how we're playing it. That's how we're playing it this week.
Can I just clarify? Did we move up the ranks last week? Surely 7 was above average.
This is, I think, sorry, I forgot to bury this. I'm burying the lead here. This is the first week that on my screen right now, I'm seeing a green arrow pointing north, which I haven't seen in a long time. We are getting closer to that 100. We are 123 out of 309. We're getting very close to it. And there's, as you can tell, there's so many people in this league. We've got to do well. And this is the first week of our rise to glory. So what's happening? We've got Carlton versus Brisbane. Who's winning and what's the margin?
Oh, I hate the margin. It's
a tough one.
Not a strong suit. It's going to be the Baggies, and we love the 11, don't we?
11, we're going it. Beautiful.
Brackets,
I like it. Oh, brackets. Geez, Slim now. Maybe they got to get a new nickname for him. But Saturday at the MCG, Dimmer's going to be happy. It's not a Marvel clash this week. Somehow. Richmond versus the West Coast Eagles. Could just be both teams just get relegated out of the league if they just put in a bad performance. What happens? Who wins this one?
Oh, gee, Footy Classified. If the Tigers drop this one, it'd be lit. Yeah, it's got to be the Tigers though.
Unfortunately, next one is Geelong versus Adelaide at GMHB A B C D E F G. Go through the alphabet for this one.
Oh, who wins? They don't lose down there, do they? Rarely.
They don't,
rarely.
Unfortunately.
But they won't lose.
They do not. Gold Coast versus Melbourne at the Great Heritage Bank Stadium. One of the greats.
Rest in peace, Metricon. I mean, yeah, this is a good one. I feel like there could be something in an upset here, maybe. I'm just going to put that in just as a sprinkle, but I'll tip Melbourne.
Yeah, I liked because the thing with the tips is you've got to find a couple of upsets. And I was speaking of upsets, I was very upset with myself last week because I went against your Friday night blockbuster, tried to get mine in an Adelaide victory over Collingwood. So I lost out on both occasions. And then there was 2 games that in my head, I went, go the upset. Go, I think it was Gold Coast over Richmond. And then there was and then I was like, go GWS over Sydney. Do it. And I went against it. Yeah. And I could have had one of the greatest weeks and 9 out of 9. But I didn't trust myself. So I'm keen to hear your upset and see where you're backing yourself. That's my thing to you, Lockie. Back yourself in. You've got GWS versus the Doggies at Manuka. The boys have gone to Canberra. How is it happening this week?
Did somebody say 2 in a row? Upset, baby. Lock it in.
Here it is.
That's my upset of the week.
There's a big sound on that one. Then, going all the way to WA, Optus Stadium, Fremantle versus Hawthorn for the wooden spoon. Yeah. Who's winning this one?
I know.
The Harley Reid Cup, I think.
Lock in the Docks. Lock him in.
Lock in the Dockers. Gee, imagine if Hawthorn win that one. Sunday, we move to Adelaide Oval. Possible. Port Adelaide versus Essendon. How does this one go down?
Yuck. I will not be watching this one, but... it's definitely the kind of game that Essendon would win, I guess, but they're not going to.
Yeah, I'd go Port too. So that is locked in. And then we've got at the MCG, 3:20 p.m, Collingwood versus the Sydney Swans. Who takes this out?
If this was at the SCG, I would absolutely lock the Swans in for an upset. But, they're not going to come to the G and win, are they? They're just not going to.
You wouldn't think so, but it wouldn't
not
be...
at the G.
Nah, not with. I think I haven't checked the teams of them this week. I was very much just studying our teams, but I still think they have a fair few out.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of games that you definitely will not be watching come Sunday afternoon, it is a 4:40 p.m. game at
Good thing I got
Marvel
golf on
Stadium.
Sunday.
If they get 5,000 to this game, you can give them a round of applause. It is North Melbourne versus the Saints. Wow, what a contest this will be. Can't wait. Might buy some bloody level 2 padded seated tickets for this one. Who's winning this, Lockie, to round out our footy tips now? 9 out of 9 this week. Get us in the top 100.
I know. This is the one that's going to cost me, isn't it? I just don't believe in St Kilda, but go North. I can't tip against St Kilda. I mean, sorry. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I couldn't. My tea.
Saints.
Whoa. I was getting excited.
Strike that from the record, please.
Thought I was going to be on again next week.
Saints
finally.
will win that. No. You're not tipping the rest of the season, my boy.
No,
all right.
Okay.
That's how you do it.
Let's do some admin quickly live on this. I'll ask you a question to make this fair. Because last week we were in shambles trying to figure out the format of this tipping competition. If anyone can figure out something better, drop it in the comments. Because 7 out of 9 seems to be that figure that you started this run on, because the idea is kind of like if you're able to beat your score, you stay on. But then if you get 9 out of 9, or if you get 8, then you're pretty much just on forever. Is it basically, what is it? Do you have to get 7 out of 9 to stay on, or beat 7 out of 9 and keep that as that fixated score from now on? What is it?
I think
beat or
for
stay?
you, would you take 7 out of 9 this week? Or would you rather go with your tips? Like, do you think you would beat 7 this week? Because if the answer is no, then I think we say 7 and stay on.
I reckon we say 7. I don't mind.
Because I think we'd take 7 right now, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I think it should be the person's.
I'm getting 9, but
yeah, that person's score from that. So we'll keep it on the 7, and that is the score to
good admin.
Is it? That's it. So here we go. Lock in the tips. The tips are locked and loaded. I'm seeing a top 100 entry for us. But
surely.
I think so. But that's going to wrap this episode up. It's been a good one. It's been a positive one. The boys are up and about after a big win last week. Hopefully we can back it up. I think it's going to be one where we learn quite a lot about this squad. Another big test for the Blue Boys at Marvel Stadium. Sold out, Lockie. Sold out. We just keep doing it. The fans
to see you there,
are
mate.
there. It's going to be a beautiful one as the Blues absolutely tame those Lions. But we'll be back next week reviewing that big win. Go the Baggers. See you guys next time.